On a cold night in 1773, a group of ordinary men did something extraordinary. They didn't fire a single bullet. They didn't declare war. Instead, they dumped tea into the ocean and shook the British Empire. By the early 1770s, the 13 colonies were changing. They were richer, more populated, more confident. But England saw the colonies differently. To Britain, America was not a partner, it was a source of money. And after a costly war, Britain needed cash, fast. The French and Indian War had drained Britain's treasury. Protecting the colonies cost money. So Britain made a decision. The colonies would help pay the bill. New taxes were introduced. The Stamp Act, the Townshend Acts. Colonists were furious. They had no representatives in Parliament. Their message was simple. No taxation without representation. In 1773, Britain passed the Tea Act. On paper, it actually made tea cheaper, but the real goal was control. The British East India Company was struggling financially. The Tea Act gave it a monopoly, allowing British tea to flood the colonies. To Britain, it was economic survival. To the colonists, it was a trap. If they accepted the tea, they accepted Parliament's authority. No city resisted British rule more fiercely than Boston. Merchants, dock workers, printers, and artisans were already angry. Political groups, like the Sons of Liberty, organized protests and boycotts. When British ships loaded with tea arrived in Boston Harbor, tension exploded. The governor refused to send the ships back. The deadline passed. Something had to happen. That night, around 60 men gathered secretly. They disguised themselves as Native Americans, not to hide their identities, but to send a message. This was not England's protest. This was America's. They boarded the ships. Crates were broken open. Over 300 chests of tea were dumped into the freezing water. By morning, Boston Harbor was filled with tea. This was the Boston Tea Party. This wasn't vandalism. It was political defiance. The tea represented British authority, economic control, parliamentary power. By destroying it, the colonists openly challenged the empire. There was no turning back. Britain was furious. Parliament responded with punishment. Boston Harbor was shut down. Massachusetts lost self-government. British troops were sent in. These laws became known as the Intolerable Acts. Instead of crushing resistance, they united the colonies. An attack on one colony felt like an attack on all. For the first time, colonies began working together. Committees of correspondence spread news. Colonial leaders met to discuss a united response. Fear turned into determination. The idea of independence, once unthinkable, was now being whispered openly. The Boston Tea Party wasn't a spontaneous riot. It was carefully planned, disciplined, focused. No property was damaged except the tea. Nothing was stolen. This was protest with a purpose. Why the Boston Tea Party mattered. This moment changed everything. It proved the colonies would resist openly. Britain would respond harshly. Compromise was becoming impossible. The road to revolution was now unavoidable. Today, the Boston Tea Party is remembered as a symbol, not of tea, but of resistance. It showed that ordinary people could stand up to the most powerful empire on earth. Tea was dumped into the harbor, but something else sank that night. Any hope of peaceful resolution. Next, the conflict turns violent. Shots will be fired. Lives will be lost. In the next episode, we witness the first battles of the American Revolution, Lexington and Concord. Revolutions don't begin with wars. They begin with decisions. And on that night in Boston, America made one.